Hello, everyone. This My name is Gerardo Figueroa, and for my final project, I'll be talking about aqueducts. So, I want to start off this presentation off by just asking you a few questions and just making you think about your life and the things you do. So, basically, think about how much water you use every day. How much water do you take to shower? How much water do you take to just wash your dishes? Things like this never cross our minds because it's so easy for us to get water. But now imagine living hundreds of years ago where the water systems we have today don't exist. And if you want to get water, you have to pay someone or you have to walk somewhere to get that water and then you have to walk back to your house in order to use it the next day. So in today's world, uh, well, overall, transportation of water has been a really major problem in the world, and water usage in modern society is very high. For example, a person in the U.S. uses approximately 382 liters of water per day, which that is equal to like 100 gallons per day. So imagine living hundreds of years before where you had to carry all that water just in order to use it for showering, for cooking, for watering your plants. So, do you think we would still be using that much water? So that is how beneficial today's water system is compared to um, the ones in the early days. So that's just something I want to make you think about. So basically, the way that early civilizations got this amount of water for their personal needs and other things such as like their fountains and things like that was to use aqueducts. So an aqueduct is basically an artificial channel for transporting water from an abundant source of water to a place in need, most commonly over a long distance. So this could be from one city to another or from a lake to a city. So the first aqueducts were being dated back to the early second millennium in Crete, but these were just like small aqueducts that were just in that just were in the earth and making holes. So later civilizations such as the Romans adopted these ideas and improved on them to make them their own and just make them known. So these amazing and beautiful aqueducts did not just transport water; they did more than that. So these aqueducts had a really large importance in early civilizations because it affected them in many ways, um, more than just bring them in water. So basically, with obtaining water, so before, as I mentioned before, you will have to pay someone in that early times. You will have to pay someone to bring you water if you didn't have time to get it yourself, or you will have to walk several miles in order to get this water. So with aqueducts, it was easier for just the common man to get water, and it was way cheaper for them to obtain this amount of water. So basically, this lowered the price of water by a huge amount, and it helped establish a better economy where water was a fixed price and it could go towards the government because most of the governments were responsible for building these aqueducts and bringing the water to the people. And also another thing that these aqueducts gave the people was self hygiene. So basically, and you might say, well, I shower like twice a day, and like I think that's at least what you should do. Well, put yourself in their shoes. So imagine walking miles and miles and miles to get your water. Well, a 20-minute shower that you're doing right now, you're wasting about 25 gallons per 10 minutes. That's 50 gallons for every shower you take. That's just a 20-minute shower. So imagine showering twice a day. That's 100 gallons you'll have to carry just to shower. So imagine carrying that and plus the water you're gonna need for your drinking, plus the water you're gonna need for food. So things like this are things that affect the common man and makes it harder for them to get this amount of water. So this improved their self hygiene in ways that um, it created less bacteria and it helped less people getting sick. So this improved the health of the overall population and helped the people live longer lives. And you might say, well, these aqueducts are not that like good looking and stuff, but like in reality, they're so amazing and they're like so it's so hard for someone to imagine how people did it in those early times. A few years back in the winter of 2016, I had the opportunity to travel to Spain and perform with my school marching band and one of the biggest New Year's parades in the world. And during this time in Spain, we got the opportunity to travel to other cities, and one of this was Segovia, which was a few miles from Madrid. And in Segovia, there was this aqueduct, and the picture right here, that's the one I took from my own cell phone when I went there, and it's so amazing. This aqueduct stands over 28.5 meters tall and runs over 32 kilometers. This aqueduct is one of the most significant landmarks and one of the most preserved Roman aqueducts around the area, and overall. Um, so other so that's where like I got so amazed by these aqueducts that I just wanted to like look how they were built and other aqueducts around that area that were still standing. So some of the other aqueducts that are still standing and are really famous are such as the Pont du Gard, which is a 50-kilometer long Roman aqueduct built in the first century, um, and was designed to transport over 200,000 cubic meters of water to the city of Nemaus. Another one was the Pont de les Ferrer, known as the Devil's Bridge, which is a 249-meter long Roman aqueduct in Spain, most in Catalonia, that is guessed to have been built around the first century AD during the Augustus reign. So these are some of the most well-known and most preserved aqueducts um, overall, and even though they're not that big, or you may say they're longer aqueducts, these are one of the most famous and the most preserved around the area. So, you know how we have water systems today that actually take into account like the movement of water, the heat of the water, and many other things that, well, people study for it, such as civil engineers, physicists, mathematicians, engineers overall. Well, imagine having all these things during the Roman Empire or during those times. So the Roman aqueducts brought many innovative materials such as concrete and things that we have adopted over the time. Um, they saw that concrete could be molded into several figures that they could use for their purpose. So that's why concrete is most commonly used during the Roman empires for their buildings and like these aqueducts. Uh, there are several researches regarding their knowledge of hydraulics, which is the movement of water and how water functions. So these talk about how Roman engineers actually did know like many things about hydraulics and how water moved. That's how they constructed these aqueducts for several kilometers and still preserve the efficiency that some aqueducts nowadays could manage. Some Roman engineers, such as Sextus Julius Frontinus, wrote about his experience and expertise in his book. And other engineers, such as the Greek engineer Marcus Vitrus Pollio, wrote about the need of constant supply and test for potable water in his book, De Architectura. Um, these engineers wrote about things such as the beauty of the aqueducts. Uh, Sextus Julius Frontinus wrote about how these beautiful aqueducts were compared in such technologies that we that could be compared to the Egyptian pyramids. The Egyptian pyramids were at their time one of the most innovative things because they used things that we never thought possible now, such as balancing the land, such as angles, things like that that at that time they were really innovative. So engineers such as Frontinius thought that the aqueducts were so innovative that they could be compared to the Egyptian pyramids. And Marcus Vitruvius Polio, he basically talked about how to keep water uh, portable and how to keep that water supply constant. So basically, he wrote about connecting the aqueducts to a water supply and how to test if that water supply was healthy for the people that were gonna drink it or they were just gonna use it for their own needs. So he wrote about that, and so those were some of the best engineers that were related to the aqueducts during their time. So modern infrastructure has improved drastically over the last few centuries, now being able to transport thousands of gallons of water in just a few amount of period. But what many people don't realize is that these modern technologies have adopted many of the ones that the Roman used in their own times. Um, Such as these were like the concrete and the use of hydraulics and the use of gravity to move the water from a high place to a lower place. Um, but modern society has improved on these ideas by doing things such as water purification, such as what we see in the picture. Um, we have the Roman aqueduct at the top, which has the reservoir, the intake, and the conduit, and this connects basically the source of water to the city. And this these things this could be really useful sometimes, but when it comes to like environmental impact, pollution, and things like that, that's where water purification has a big impact. This way, with the treatment plant and the conduit being underwater, there's less interaction between um, other things such as pollution, dirt, bacteria with the water, and that could prevent any disease from spreading. And other things such included just as the efficiency. So Romans used concretes in their aqueducts, and even though these aqueducts were really efficient, there was a lot of water lost um, during the process of moving from one place to another. Um, and modern society has improved on this by putting materials and other things to prevent water loss from one place to another, which will increase the efficiency of the aqueduct. And now, for example, one of the largest water canals, which in reality is really common to an aqueduct, is the Central Arizona Project, which extends over 541 kilometers, transporting water from the Colorado River to the southern part of Arizona. So this has been a huge improvement from moving to from per se 90-kilometer aqueducts in the Roman Empire to 541-kilometer canals in today's world. But in reality, modern society has adopted many things from the Roman empires and the Roman ideas. So here are some of my references, and that's basically it regarding how much impact the aqueducts actually had on the Romans and today's society. Um, with now bringing their ideas and improving on them for what we know about materials, um, efficiency, hydraulics, and other things that the Romans did not have at the time.